Is it that people on South don't realize that there's a humongous difference between the economy on Northern and Southern, and it has to do with certain things like this, like a lot of the dragons are private slayings, so a lot of the Drake and scale is hoarded. Um, so for the everyday man to get a Drake set is kind of not in the cards unless you're willing to go out and do the hunting of the uniques yourself, or I think even if you attended every single public dragon slaying, you probably wouldn't still have enough to make a set. Yeah, I said I'd never buy Drake, but Garrett quit and gave it to me. Oh, nice. Inherited. Yeah. I mean, because of like the way that like my personal history in Wurm, because of like how that happened, um we were able to get Drake pretty easily, I think. Um so there was 3 of us playing at the very beginning. It was myself, Brian, and the woman Brian was with at the time. And we did a whole bunch of like, how should I say? We did a whole bunch of like, what am I doing here? I'm like, can't get to that bridge. The first thing we did in the game was we built a little deed, and then right behind the deed, we built a labyrinth. And that labyrinth was our very first initial labyrinth that was really fun to build, really hard to beat. Um, we had a lot of ideas for this labyrinth that didn't quite work out because of the mechanics of the game, didn't quite match our mindset about it. But we had a lot of fun, and that attracted the attention of someone by the name of Zalafir. And Zalafir wanted to hold an event at our deed where, we would have a whole bunch of people racing through the labyrinth, and the winner gets a Drake set. Now, Zalafir, he had, like, do you remember the very first labyrinth though? Like not the labyrinth that's built on Xanadu, the one that's on Deliverance. It's long gone now, but it's like the very original labyrinth. Zalafir loved it, and he had this grand idea of like holding events, and so we held an event. Somebody won a Drake set, and then next he invited us to build a market that he had in mind, and he wanted it to be an event market, like a market, but also a place where people can gather, and it would be like events being held there. And he wanted us to build another labyrinth, a bigger one, and so we agreed to go over and work on Puzzle Plaza and work on a new labyrinth there. So we did. We built Puzzle Plaza. The labyrinth was built, but never got fully opened. Like, we completed it, but it never, like, nobody ran the second labyrinth that we did. It's still, evidence of its existence is still there. I would have loved to see people run through that one, but I don't think anybody ran through it. Shortly after that, we started streaming. So our very first video, the very, very, very first one, we were in the phase of our like time, like where we were moving away from puzzle plaza. All right, but the reason I'm telling this story is because Zalafir, for contributing to the puzzle plaza, he gave each of us a Drake set. Now he had access to all this Drake because he owned a dragon and kept it penned. And back then, dragons worked very differently than they do now. Dragons were like something completely different. It wasn't a dragon, it was a drake. So a drakeling. So it dropped the leather. So the way that they worked was the server opens, the uniques will spawn. So you got the black and the green drake. I can't even remember the colors of. They added more colors later, but at the time I can't remember. I think it was black and green, and maybe white. And then you have the dragons, which are the red and blue, and or not. I can't even remember. Was there a blue? In any case, however many of the uniques that there were, that was it. And if you killed one, it died forever. It didn't respawn. So that's the way that uniques were working back then, and that's why they're called uniques, is because they were literally unique. So the Troll King and the Goblin Leader and all those, you kill them and they don't ever respawn. So people kind of knew that that was the case, and when the new server opened, so this is Deliverance now. At the time, it was only Independence and Chaos. Deliverance opens, and there's a big land rush, and of course, there's a big unique hunt. And the person that got the black drake and penned it was Zalafir. So he had it penned up, and every, I want to say, 6 months or so, the dragon would lay an egg. And that egg you can hatch, and a new drake pops out of it, and you just have, all of your buddies ready for it, and you can slay the dragon right after it pops out of the egg. So he did this, and the first time that they did this, I think it was the first time they did this, the egg spawned twins. So 2 drakes spawned out of the egg. Keeping in mind, he still had the mother or the parent drake penned in a enclosure. Remember scale being red only back in the day? Maybe it was only red. It's possible that that's true. I kind of remember that too. But the what do you call it? The hide, the drake hide, for sure came in at least black and green, and I kind of remember maybe white, but black and green for sure was there. Now the other thing that was different about the drakes back then was that they would drop way more leather, like way more leather. One drake would drop enough leather for like 40 full sets of drake armor. Okay, so they spawned twins, and they killed both, and got enough leather for 80 sets of leather of drake. Of course, I think Zalafir, because he owned the dragon, he owned the egg, and of course all the spoils. But he gave to each of the fighters 1 full drake set, and he kept the rest and sold it for silver. And at that time, the prices of things were really set by, especially for drake, the prices of drake is set primarily by the person that has all the drake, because they can just hoard it and nobody has access to it, driving up the prices because people want it. But he never seemed to do that. Like, he sold it for like I remember seeing him sell, like people would come to the puzzle plaza, pick up their Drake set and drive off. And that he was selling it for like 35 silver sometimes to some people, 40 silver to other people. Um I guess it depends on how close he knew that person or if he was friends with them or whatever it was. And then he just gave us, our little group of 3 people, he gave us each one full set each, you know. So that was really cool. Yeah, it was a different time. I remember like the Drakes got like there was rumor that all the uniques are going to get changed. The whole unique system is going to get changed. You got a Drake set from some slaying, then wasted my Cyril on a chain set for my priest that probably never fought anything since. Okay. Yeah. And Dad gave you your first Drake set back in the day? Yeah. Yeah, I think all those people who, you know, played back then probably have a story about the Drake set that they got somehow. Yeah, cuz even though it was rare, there was like it was available, like it was there because of the amount of leather that would be dropped by these things. It was just insane how much leather was dropped. And then when it all got changed, it was like, okay, now one dragon or Drake will only drop enough for one set, maybe. But then all that leather is going to get divided up, you know, across all of the fighters. Yeah. Yeah, you think there's a couple sets worth? I think there's a couple sets worth. I don't know about that. So you think a unique will drop two, like enough leather for 2 full sets, but then it's split amongst all of the fighters? Hmm. If you recall correctly, your first scale set came from the first red dragon slaying on Indy. Wow. It was up it was up a mountain, took us 5 attempts to kill. We were over the moon at the time. I bet. I bet. Yeah. Those sets were still valuable, like really valuable at the time. Like the scale sets, I don't remember them when I started playing, they were selling for something like €250 or something like that. Yeah, just slayings have 400 people, so everybody gets point. Yeah, I know. That's true, but if everybody gets 0.01 and there's 400 people, that's only 4 kilograms. How much is it for a set? I thought it was like 3.5 kilograms for a set. So I think it's somewhere in the vicinity of 1 set per slaying. I think when I was running slayings on Wurm Unlimited, the default was enough leather for just under 4 sets. You remember that red dragon was penned there for years. Yeah, it was near your deed. And yeah, about that, I do know that there were multiple people who had penned dragons specifically for eggs. Those eggs would come every so often, I remember. And I remember the last egg that Zalafir got, he was holding on to it, and then the change happened. And apparently the Drake that spawned out of that egg only dropped enough, like dropped the new amount, the lower amount. Yeah, you think they dropped 3 to 5 kilograms sometimes, killed with 6 people, and all I got was 0.8. That would be like 4.8. Yeah, there's still a few eggs floating around. Yeah, yeah. You bet there's still a few eggs floating around. Yeah, I bet too. And I bet that those eggs are like they'll spawn the new versions of the uniques, I think. I'm pretty sure. At least that's what happened to Zalafir. Yeah. Probably, sadly, I don't have any more. We used 5 eggs all at once before we left chaos. Okay. Yeah. Boy, that was like a different time in Worm for sure. Things were a lot more centralized. Yeah, different era for sure. Yeah. There were individuals who held all the power, you know? Like that's how it kind of felt. There were these pillars of people who just held all the cards. And everybody else was sort of trying to like either buddy up with those people or I don't know, make their own way, I guess.